A small fleet of ships sails across the open ocean, with no islands in sight. As the camera zooms in, we recognize a few of the symbols flown on the flags of these ships, primarily those of the Cynosure Society. On the deck of one of these ships, we see Drake McCabe sitting propped up against a few barrels that are lashed in place, and he is writing in a small notebook, either a letter or in his journal, documenting the fact that his recovery has gone well, but they are not returning to the Isle of New Boca. Members of the Church of the Enduring Servant are also there, observing Drake as they sail through these waters, making sure that his recovery is still going smoothly, and Cynosure Society scientists are not far away either, also taking notes and asking the Church of the Enduring Servants how and what goes on in their procedures for the recovery of people like Drake McCabe. He is kind of a focal point for both parties, and he's writing about this just to document it, to hopefully give maybe to his sister Cassidy or someone else soon. We hear an inner monologue of Drake, and he notes that he's on the way back to the Isle of Kyros, to the capital city of Carcordia, to meet with the elders of the Church of the Enduring Servants, because there are final tests that need to be run after the intervention that saved his life. The scene proceeds, and he arrives in Carcordia, which is in the midst of an enormous celebration, or some kind of public event. But there's a mixed sort of tension in the air he can't quite place. Large crowds are gathered in squares, vendors from all over the myriads and margins are selling their goods, entertainment is on every street corner, but there's a heavy guard presence, and the members of the Church of the Enduring Servants that he's traveling with appear somber. When they arrive at the church we have seen multiple times now, there is a vigil being held for Elder Durand. Drake overhears that he was slain a few nights back, but no one knows how or who it could have been. The Inquisitors have tasked themselves with finding the murderer, but the rest of the church mourns. Drake is unsure of how to proceed at this point, but he kneels down for a prayer, uttering familiar phrases, and we hear, "Life must have an end, but the spirit endures." Elsewhere in Carcordia, Azriel Sterling has abandoned his vestments and has taken up unassuming clothes. He's walking through the busy streets with his iron-shod staff stooped low, and he's covered the tip of his conspicuous iron-shod staff with the censer on top in rags, but every once in a while a glow peeks through in places. He's moving deeper into the city and slips into an alley near a cordoned-off section of the city where the excavation of the ruins descend below. A patrol walks by, which consists of Kyrodi soldiers accompanied by a member of the Cynosure Society and a member of the Church of the Enduring Servants. "Look, we're no stranger to violence in the city, but lately, I've never seen anything like this." The member of the church responds and says, "Well, there are many people here for the celebration. Too many people in one place leads to friction." "It's not that," says the soldier. "I've broken up a few, and I swear on my family's iron, something is affecting these folks. At least these last few weeks, it's different." The scientist from the Cynosure Society chimes in. "Simpler folks would attribute this to a full cinder, but my associates are also reporting strange findings. All the more reason to patrol these areas. The senators are set to announce a breakthrough in the ruins to the festival attendees, so let's try and keep things calm until then." The patrol walks away, and Azriel waits for them to turn the corner. Then he stands up a little straighter and stalks towards the ruins beneath Carcordia. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ironsworn Sundered Isles, Season 2, Heart of the Dominion. We're halfway through June, and most of the way through this campaign. I don't know why I'm limiting myself and saying that I only have a few episodes left, but in my mind it feels important to me to explore more games on this channel. I don't want to be a one game type of channel, and I feel like I can accomplish what I set out to do with these games in something like 10 to 15 sessions. So it may not be 1 or 2 after this, it may be 3 or 4, but I am trying to wrap up this series, and I hope that you are enjoying it. The rest of this month includes one more Perspective Checks episode, and that is with Adrian and Alex of the Dungeons and Degrees podcast, which was such a fun talk, and I did an episode for their feed as well. So go subscribe, listen to them, and hopefully my episode will be coming out soon so you can listen to more, but there's plenty of great conversations over there on their feed. And other than that, we're getting ready to move into July, which means that at some point soon, I am going to be moving on to a new game for the main sort of actual play part of this whole podcast. And I put up a poll in the DMs After Dark Discord. If you're a member of that, be sure to go vote. If you are not, I think I'm going to put basically the same poll up on my socials. So if you follow me on social media, try and get a vote in so I know what people would like to hear, and maybe that will influence me to try something different than what I had imagined. But before I get too into thinking about another game, let's play some more Sundered Isles. Alright, first things first, I wanted to retcon. I can't believe I didn't play out a scene last episode where Cassidy went looking for Drake on the Isle of Nuboka. Now, I just did the intro scene where we learned he was actually being transported back to the mainland of Kyros and Carcordia for follow-up with the church and how they work their quote-unquote miracles to save these people on the brink of death. But outside of this influence of this cursed iron domain, so it could be interesting to see how that plays out. But I just wanted to bring up that I should have done that, and I think there's a great little intro scene to this episode where Cassidy is walking through Nuboka looking for her brother, asking around about a Drake McCabe under the guise of Fitz Hadley. So just for fun, I'm going to roll 1 gather information here and see what happens. So plus wits. And I get 2 plus 2 for a 4 versus a 3 and a 5 on the challenge dice. So the information provides insight but also complicates your quest. Envision what you discover. I think that through the alias of Fitz Hadley, Cassidy is able to speak with some Explorers Guild contacts, and basically all she's able to find out is that Drake McCabe was stationed on the Isle of Namira doing research into, classified blah blah blah, and that last they heard of anything over there, maybe the other teams from Namira have returned or small teams have returned, shipments of supplies and things like that have gone out, and maybe the last that she heard is that nobody knows what happened with Drake McCabe. Nothing's been said one way or another, so she knows he's not around here, and she knows what happened on Namira, so there was that kind of like ships passing in the night, no pun intended, and she still has yet to hear from her brother. But the pressure of the moment on Cassidy to continue getting to the bottom of the Bloodsworn and this cursed iron and all of these altars and who's behind it and who is Will Solace and all of this meant she just had to keep moving. She is pragmatic if nothing else, so she is not going to let her missing brother or lack of contact with her brother stop her from getting to the bottom of this. And next I wanted to potentially add a complication that I feel like is a good one at this point that we haven't had, but maybe I'm gonna save it real quick, because we said that once Cassidy and Lee, through whatever kind of strange connection they could make with Quan, removed the effects of the Bloodsworn's curse or whatever it was that shut them down. I think that we said that they were on track because Damar Siver has made contact with an Ebb contact who told them who to speak to back on the mainland of Kyros. So we are going to set a course and we are going to make our way back. Everyone is converging to the same place. Here goes. So when you set a course, you travel through a known route, through perilous seas, etc. We are rolling plus supply. Again, I wonder if this is supposed to be hold, but it's +2 for supply, +5 for hold. Let's see if it makes a difference. It actually doesn't. A 4 on the action die, +2 if we're using supply for a 6 versus a 5 and a 2 on the challenge dice for a strong hit. We still have the Bloodsworn captured and struggling in our hold, and we've just revived Quan for some more information that may be able to help us move forward in interesting ways. On a strong hit, you reach your destination, and the situation there favors you. Take +1 momentum. We are maxed out on momentum, as we were last session, so I really got to use that soon. And the complication that I had in mind, we will keep in the back pocket, because I think it's a good one that really probably should have happened by now. But before we disembark and walk through Carcordia and make our way to the capital of the Dominion, the heart of the Dominion, if you will, I want to do one more scene aboard the Revenant during this time when we are sailing towards Kyros, and I want to see if we can do something to cure or alleviate the pain of or remove the effects of some of this strange Sky Iron curse on these Bloodsworn. And stop me if you've heard this one before or if anyone is surprised, but looking through the moves, I think the actual best way to go through a scene like this is to have a scene challenge. And I know I really like them. I think it's a really great way to kind of structure and compartmentalize these not quite adventure arc or character arc or vows, these longer drawn out obstacles and goals and things like that. I think that something like this, though, the added stress of a scene challenge, of the tension clock, and it being basically timed. You're going to hit 4 marks on that clock, or you're going to amass enough traction to actually make things happen, is a good way to handle something like this. And also, I was looking through the moves, adventure moves might work, things like that, but I think that this works because we're going to face danger, secure advantages, but it's not the physical type of danger necessarily. So we are going to set the scene. When you face an extended or complex challenge, I think this is pretty complex, name your objective and choose a rank. I think I'm going to call this Cleanse or Purify the Cursed Vow affecting the Bloodsworn. And if we look at how to choose a rank, it says if you have a clear advantage, it's troublesome. I don't think we have a clear advantage. We have Quan, we have Lee, but that doesn't mean we know what we're doing. If we're ready to act, it's dangerous. And if we're unprepared or outmatched, it's formidable. I've been putting the Bloodsworn at formidable, but right now they're struggling because we have weakened the cursed domain within which their vow has been empowered. So I think that we're going to stick this right in the middle at dangerous, and we are going to start a 4-segment tension clock and choose either face danger or secure an advantage to take action. I think the information of Lee Sterling, who has held Marama's heart, or, whatever kind of contact he has made with her, I think it's kind of neat that he held her heart and felt the iron in her blood, hence Bloodsworn. This curse has infected her life source, her blood. And we have Quan, who's been affected by their magic, who may have been able to kind of reverse engineer, figure out what it is they did to affect even a construct like Quan, who can really probably only be affected by that Sky Iron core in its chest. So we're going to secure an advantage first because we're going to have talked about this, and we're going to do this with wits. It makes sense. Expertise, focus, or observation. Let's see how we start. Oh no, that is a 3 + 2 for a 5 versus a 10 and a 7. I think we're burning all of our momentum just to kick this off without a hard miss to make it a weak hit. On a weak hit, choose 1, +2 momentum, or +1 on your next move. Well, we just reduced our momentum all the way down to 2, so I'm going to take 2 to get back up to 4, and this is a weak hit. On secure an advantage, which means we don't fill a clock segment, but we also don't get any progress going into it. So maybe that was kind of a wasted turn, but oh well. It felt fictionally appropriate. So now we see Quan, we see Cassidy, maybe we see Damaris Yver as a Ebb contact, as a spy who may know a thing or two about what's going on here. They walk down and we do the good cop, bad cop thing. Maybe we separate one of them. And yeah, we leave Damaris Yver to kind of just probe them for questions. He's good at getting information, while Quan and Cassidy take one at a time into another room in the hull, down in the hold or something like that, and we're going to question them. But we obviously start with Marama, and we tell the other Bloodsworn that are alive, the other two, that their stories better match. And I think that this is going to be facing danger to intimidate them, which technically is probably iron, but I'm going to argue it's shadow. Deception, trickery, stealth, so it's just kind of like getting them off their A game. That is a 5 plus 3 for an 8 against a 9 and a 1 on the challenge dice, 9 being Cinder, so I think that we're just pissing them off, is what we're doing. So on a weak hit on face danger, you're successful, we get to mark progress, but also encounter a complication or setback, we fill a clock segment, so we are at 2 progress and 1 out of 4 on the clock. For the complication or setback, I think that we chose Marama because she knows what Lee has done to her. She has been scared, at least a little at one point, by what this small group can do, what they seem to already know. But instead of doing this in hopes that she would play ball and give us information and all of this stuff and play nice and hopefully want to be cured of these things to prevent any kind of pain or torture or whatever we may be threatening happening to her subordinates, we just get her ready for round 2 in this battle of wills. And I know I love using my worst stats, but I think that the scene here starts with Quan in their enormous bulk and strength grabs Marama, lifts her up, and carries her into the other room, which this is probably a little bit of a shock to the Bloodsworn who, if you ask them, deactivated this construct, but we've done something to bring it back already, which might be a little scary. And I think that they put Marama down maybe a little aggressively, right? Like playing up the we're not here to play sort of attitude. But Cassidy's going to play good cop, or try to, which is not her strength. So we're going to roll plus heart to secure an advantage with sociability. She's going to look at Marama and say, for whatever reason you did this, it shouldn't have come with the cost you had to pay for it. If you want revenge, we can get revenge. No one likes the Dominion. That sentiment has never gone away, and if you haven't heard news from the reaches and even parts of the margins, people are fighting back. We can take down this corrupt Dominion. We can carve our own place again. You didn't have to sell your soul and curse yourself to do it. And Marama just looks and spits, but we're gonna try. Let's see. Plus heart. Ooh, that's a 6 plus 1 for a 7 versus a 9 and a 7 on the challenge dice for a miss. Oh, we were so close. We did as well as we could with Cassidy, and I think this is very fitting. Oh, should we use the haunted asset? Is it too late to call in help from Lee Sterling? I think it's perfect. I think it's going to turn it into a weak hit. We get +1 when we're calling upon their insight. He appears before Marama, and we see her eyes go wide because it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a dream. She knows this is something that is real now. We get a weak hit, which means we do endure stress. We're going down to 4 on our spirit track, but we turn this into a weak hit on secure an advantage, which means we don't have to mark a clock segment, and we get to choose 1. I'm going to add +2 to our momentum again, bringing us back up to 6. And with that little bit more of momentum, we are going to face danger, and Cassidy's going to say, I would love for you to agree to this and go in with an open heart, but it's not a requirement. I think we know a way to stop the magic that is cursing your blood. And like it or not, we're going to try. And Quan holds Marama down. She starts frantically pushing and kicking, and she's bucking against the strength of this construct. But Lee Sterling slowly glides forward and is going to face danger. And this could be either strength, endurance, or aggression. I think endurance really tracks here, right? To just kind of like be the conduit of all of that. And also, it could be expertise, focus, or observation with wits. I'm going to roll. It's going to be +1 or +2. Let's see what the dice say, and then we'll figure out what the most interesting outcome is. Well, it does not matter. That is a 3 plus either 1 or 2 for a 5 or 4 versus a 6 and an 8 on the challenge dice. Even if I burned my momentum to make that 6, it would be a miss. So Lee reaches in to once again hold Marama's heart and feel her blood pumping through her body, that curse. But the thing is, we are sailing in these waters. They're already weakened. This cursed domain has gone down. I think that he's having a harder time compared to when, at the site of the second altar, before it was cleansed by Cassidy, that power was pulsing through Marama. I think that he finds that, oh no, this could be bad. So on a miss, you fail or a momentary success is undermined by a dramatic turn of events. Fill a clock segment, pay the price. Let's see what that pay the price says. 66. Your vehicle suffers damage? It's perfect. It's perfect. I know that sounds absolutely out of nowhere, but the complication I had in mind earlier was that someone on the island of New Boca, Cynosha Society or Explorers Guild, recognized the Revenant as a wanted ship of the Dominion after the jailbreak of Damaris Iver. And I think that we just got hit with a cannonball. It's kind of funny because for our set of course, we already rolled it, and it was, you arrive, and the situation there benefits you, except we're getting shelled right now, so do we arrive? We're going to find out. Do we think I can pull off a simultaneous blood curse, vow, cleansing ritual, and naval combat? Let's find out. First question, who's shooting at us? Who could this be? The Cynosha Society or the Explorers Guild would have recognized the Revenant docked on New Boca. Do we assume there are Carcordia patrols in the area? I mean, it is an important research station and main island of these myriads in the heart of the Dominion. Oh! Okay. I'm going to say it is likely that this is Raskhar. Yeah, I think that's what this is. Raskhar's been hunting us down for a while. 75 or less, 100%, that is a 19. The Raskhar has caught us. And not only that, presumably they were the ones who dropped off the Bloodsworn Marama at the second altar. Why didn't we think of this? Oh no, we did outrun them, right? There was... Yeah, we're overdue for a real naval combat with Raskhar. Oh, this episode just got absolutely ridiculous. Alright. We're going to cut away from the ritual at the moment as Cassidy feels the Revenant just rock, and all of a sudden the ship is swaying and it is difficult to keep your footing, and Marama just looks up from all of this in the tight grip of Quan, and she just smiles. Lee Sterling is looking down at her and looks over at Cassidy, and we hear a call from above decks, and it is First Mate Asana, and she says, "Cassidy, Raskhar has been sighted, he's shooting at us." Cassidy looks at Lee and says, "Hold on, do your best, I'll be right back." She runs up, assuming battle stations. She kind of calls out to everybody, all hands on deck, we need everybody. We are going to just skip right to the approach phase of naval combat and have to face danger. We are doing this with edge because we must move fast to get into position. They've gotten the drop on us and we are in a bad position. Here goes. That is a 5 plus 2 for a 7 versus a 4 and a 3 on the challenge dice for a strong hit on face danger in this naval combat. And that's not for enter the fray, so that's just for us to get into position. I think that we are quick enough at it that we pull on all the right riggings and ropes to get ourselves into a position, turn so that we are harder to hit coming from their cannon side and all of this stuff, and we use the winds to kind of position ourselves ready for engagement. I am going to say that our ship has taken a little bit of damage. We already had a little bit of damage on our ship, but I'm going to put it at 3, right in the middle to see where we're at. The Revenant as a magical mystical ship, I think kind of heals itself, right? It does kind of hull repairs and all this stuff. It's been in a rough spot, but we're starting at 3 for this combat because I'm not sure what brought us there before. It feels like a good starting spot. And technically we get +1 momentum for a strong hit on face danger, so we're up to 7. And Cassidy looks out, grabs the spyglass from Asana, looks, sees the banner, sees the flag, sees the colors and the markings of that gargoyle that is Raskhar on that ship, and she scowls and says, "No more playing with this man. We sink them, we drown them." And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and forth. We're going to do one roll for the naval combat, and then we're going to go below decks, and we are going to proceed with the ritual scene as Quan and Lee Sterling. I might shift some numbers for our stats, but we will see what feels right. First things first, we need to enter the fray for this naval combat, and I'm pretty confident in saying that this is going to be plus wits because we are sizing up an opponent. We are caught in a situation here, so let's roll to see what our best plan is forward. That is a 4 plus 2 against an 8 and a 2 on the challenge dice, 8 being Wraith. Interesting. I think that the Revenant is not as responsive as we are used to having it because this cursed domain is no longer empowering it. So that is a weak hit on Enter the Fray, so we can either start in control or get plus 2 momentum. We certainly don't feel like we are in control right now, but momentum is on our side because all of these things culminating, pushing Cassidy and the crew of the Revenant and all this information that we are too far, we are too close to changing things here to let this angry, family bondstone stealing marauder ruin all of the hard work we've been doing that can change so many good lives. And Cassidy has personally lost friends to this raider, and now she is done playing. She's usually a spy. She stays in the background. She hides in the shadows. She gets the information. She stabs when and only when she absolutely has to. But right now, she is pissed. We're going to roll one more time for the naval combat, and we are going to react under fire to get into position, once again with edge, this time not for the crew, but for the ship itself. Oh, but before I roll this, we need to determine the rank for this objective, and it is Sink Raskhar. That is what it is. And so we are going to come up with this rank. I think this has to be formidable. At least formidable, maybe even extreme, but that seems really hard and would probably stretch multiple episodes. So, although right here in the book it says, if you are outgunned or outmatched, make it extreme. Let's go for it. Let's do it. When Cassidy says this, like, we sink them, we drown them, Asana looks and says, now, Captain, if there was ever a time to just hightail it and run, get into closer waters where there are patrols. And Cassidy just looks and says, we end this now. And I think that the whole ship takes a collective moment of, oh no, it's us or them. All right, let's go back downstairs. We're going to roll for Lee Sterling and Quan, who are still down there with Marama. Marama has probably started to try talking again, but again, when Lee Sterling holds her heart like this, she has trouble doing so. So she's just smiling and trying. And maybe Lee lets go a little bit, like loosens his grip to be like, I'd like to talk. Like, if you are willing, let's talk. And again, this is a scene challenge. We are halfway through the tension clock to just call it, and we only have 2 progress. So I think that by loosening his grip, I think that Lee is facing danger, potentially letting Marama do something dangerous. And this is going to be plus heart, but I'm going to give it plus 2 instead of plus 1 because it's Lee. I'm not going to swing it all the way to plus 3, even though we've said many a times that he was the heart, he was the face of their little organization. I'm just going to bump it up to plus 2 because this whole episode has already just gone off the rails and is crazy. So let's see. 4 plus 2, but it's against a 6 and a 7. I do have 9 momentum, but I'm probably going to need that in the fight. But oh, if we can do something with these Bloodsworn, that could be really, really huge. I'm going to burn it. Let's just keep burning momentum. Let's play really fast and loose and dangerous in this session. Let's just get absolutely crazy. On a strong hit, you are successful. Mark progress. So we are up to 4 progress and still only 2 clock segments. Oh boy, we're going to get to the part where for both of these, I think we're going to have to rip it on taking decisive action very early, right? Finishing the scene and taking decisive action in this naval combat. We're going to have to just take our chances on pretty low numbers, most likely. So what does a strong hit look like? Lee Sterling loosens his grip on Marama's heart, pulls his hand out, lets her talk. She's still held tight in Quan's grasp, and she looks up at him, and she says, What could you have died for? That you are still here, fighting, trying to help. Help! I don't want to help anyone. I want to see it all burn. You don't understand. You think this is a curse? It is a gift. If all I have is a limited amount of time to kill and ruin as many of them as I can, I will spend every second doing it. Whatever you're doing, it's not going to change them until you start taking their pieces off the board. And I think Lee just looks at her and says, I don't disagree with you, but if you remove a piece, they can just put another in its place. What we want to do is expose them, so everyone knows they're tricks, and they can't use them anymore. Speaking of tricks, we are going to go above decks, and we are going to see what's happening here in the engagement phase. I just realized we never rolled that react under fire to get into position, so we're going to do that, plus edge, and do one more roll. Here goes. Oh my goodness, we just got so lucky. Oh my gosh, that is a 1 on the action die, plus 2 for edge, against 2 2s on the challenge dice. That is a strong hit with a match. So we are now in control. We get plus 1 momentum, back up to 3. And on a match, I want to say something else happens, but I'm not really sure what that could be. So I think what I'm going to do is, because this is extreme, I'm going to give myself 2 ticks of progress on this box, because I think that we surprise Raskhar by reacting so quickly. I'm going to need all the help I can get, so. Now that we have repositioned ourselves in this combat, I think that the rest of this pretty much just goes out like a combat. There are recommendations in the book for actions that you take in a naval combat and what moves those translate to, so let's take a look at those. I think that we are going to ready the cannons. I think this is gain ground to ready special ammunition, hold for maximum effect, or line up a precise shot. We have said before that the Revenant has snipers in the crow's nest. Now, we may not be in position for that, so I think that we're going to gain ground, and we're going to do this using... You know what? This sounds crazy, but I think Shadow works here, which is preparing an ambush. Now, this isn't an ambush per se, but it's not the expected attack. I think that we lower our gun ports and make it known that we are not fleeing this time. You are going to have a fight. But I think that maybe we have something else up our sleeve. So let's roll to see if that plan's gonna pan out. 3 plus 3 for a 6 versus a 2 and a 4 on the challenge dice for a strong hit on gain ground. On a hit, you stay in control. On a strong hit, I get to choose 2. We're going to mark progress, and we are going to take plus 1 on our next move up here. We have filled the first box. All right. Then I get to think about what cool weapons we might have, what sneaky tricks we have for the Revenant. You know what, actually, let's just go ahead and do one more, because that went quickly compared to the ritual. So let's fire small arms. That says strike to snipe at key targets from a secure position. That sounds right. We've shown you our cannons. You didn't expect the bullets. Here goes. We're going to strike plus edge, because it's at a distance. 5 plus 2 plus 1, because that's what we said from our gain ground, for an 8 versus a 2 and a 7 on the challenge dice. We just eked it out because of that gain ground. So on a strong hit on strike, it says mark progress twice. You dominate your foe and stay in control. We have caught them off guard. We are at 2 boxes already. That's great. That's awesome. And I think that Cassidy, her anger is starting to spread among the crew members of the Revenant, who we have said are not seasoned pirates. They are not seasoned sailors. They are not warriors and fighters. Oh, you know what? I have to stay in the middle of this scene. I think that this looks like Cassidy motivating and commanding. She's calling out. She's saying, you, who have you lost to Raskhar? You, who have you lost? And they're all starting to call out names of people who they know who have died because of this marauder. This is gaining ground with an inspiring speech. Now, that's heart. So there's no way around this. This is commanding with heart. So here goes Cassidy. That is a 6 on the die, plus 1 for a 7. It is a 7 and a 3 on the challenge dice, but that's still a weak hit. On a weak hit, I can only choose 1. This is momentum. I'm going to take plus 2 momentum up to 5, because I know I'm going to need that soon. All right. We see this. Everybody is getting fired up about fighting Raskhar, taking the fight to him. No one does this. This is an absolutely crazy decision, especially with such valuable intel on board this ship. And I think we see Damaris Yver. This is where we cut. Damaris Yver runs to Cassidy and he goes, "What are you doing? Are you crazy?" And I think that the "are you crazy" is echoed as we go below decks. And Marama says the exact same thing to Lee Sterling. She says, "Are you crazy?" She says, "There is no changing the Dominion, the way they rule. It is corruption, it is greed." And Lee says, "Regardless, please, let us try and help you. If nothing else, we can learn about what is affecting you. We can give you more time to do it your way." And he reaches towards her heart again. And in the scene challenge, this is going to, I think once again, we are just facing danger, straight up. He is just going to do this, and this time it is going to be endurance or aggression, so we're rolling plus iron, +1 for Lee. Oh my goodness. That is a 5 +1 for a 6 versus 2 5s on the challenge dice for a strong hit with a match. It says on a strong hit with a match, we get to mark progress twice. That brings us from 4 to 8 progress on cleansing the cursed vow of the Bloodsworn. We are only halfway through that clock. I think that Lee Sterling just reaches in and grabs her heart, and he can feel all of a sudden getting her riled up, that weakness, that sickness that was holding them down, and he couldn't feel that curse as strongly outside of the cursed domain. Now that he's got her worked up and angry, it's pumping more, and he can feel it, and now he can track it. He can trace it in her blood, this iron in the hemoglobin. Maybe they don't know or use that term, but there's iron in blood, and he is holding it and he can feel it. And can he do anything about it? I don't know if he can without Cassidy's dagger. So I think that he's going to snap his eyes open and he's going to look above decks and he's going to say, "Quan, hold her, I will be right back." We go back above decks and the fight is fully on. This is crazy. Okay, we are in the middle of this. We are going to... They are closing in. They are closing the gap. They have intense cannons. We're firing. Smoke is kind of just everywhere. Ooh, what time of day is this? Should I roll for the moons? Of course I should. Let's roll for the moons and see if Captain's on board. No, it is a 1 on Cinder because we just had a full moon for Cinder, but Wraith is almost full. The strange blue light, the smoke that is visible is kind of this bluish tinge. All right, here goes. We are going to just keep at it. I think that now we've gotten our cannons ready. Let's go ahead and fire the cannons. This is another strike against Raskhar. We are going to roll plus edge. 4 +2 for a 6 versus a 9 and a 4 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. On a weak hit, mark progress twice, but you expose yourself to danger. We are in a bad spot. Okay, so we are trading cannon fire at this point is exactly how this goes. Mark progress twice brings us to 3 boxes of progress in this fight. We've actually, surprisingly, if you think about it, maybe it's like a sucker punch, or we've landed a blow, we've drawn blood against Raskhar, which is more than many, many ships and captains can say. And right as Cassidy is debating whether to push this advantage and go more aggressive or not, Damaris Yver and Asana are by her side, calling out orders, trying to do the best to limit the damage. We are in a bad spot as we have taken another hit of cannon fire, and Lee Sterling just phases through the deck, and he looks at Cassidy and he says, "I need you down here. I think I've done it, but we're gonna need your dagger." And Cassidy looks and says, "Lee, now is not a good time." And he says, "Cass, I think we can do it. Please." What are we going to do? I think that we are going to react under fire, and I think that Cassidy is going to... She needs to buy time. I think she's going to look to Damaris and Asana, and she is going to attempt to say, "You hold it down. I shouldn't be more than a few minutes." Damaris and Asana both look at her like she's crazy and say, "A few minutes? That could be the difference between us living or dying. Cassidy, you can't go." And she looks at them, and we're going to roll react under fire plus, I think this is heart and iron. This is her looking at them and saying, "Do this for me. You can do this. Just keep us afloat. Keep the pressure on. I will be right back." This is just +1 no matter what. It is like aggressive, tough love, do your job kind of thing. Oh my goodness. A 1 on the action die, +1 against a 9 on Cinder, and a 1 on Wraith. We managed to pull off a weak hit on React Under Fire. It says, on a weak hit, you avoid the worst of the danger or overcome an obstacle, but not without a cost. Make a suffer move and remain in a bad spot. the suffer move is going to be our ship is taking damage. Maybe morale is flagging if they see Cassidy go below decks. But no, I think that this is going to be the ship, right? This is not Cassidy making the suffer move. This is the ship. So we are down to 2 on its health track, if you will, for the ship, and that's a little nerve-wracking. I've never actually had to roll on anything like that, so let's see what happens. Let's see if we can close out this scene challenge with Marama and the Bloodsworn, though, as Cassidy goes down with her dagger, and she goes down. The ship lurches once again, sending everybody kind of careening, grabbing onto anything to hold on, and she looks at Marama, and now Marama is screaming. Lee is not holding her heart, keeping her from talking, keeping her from moving, and she's like, "No, I will not let you take it from me. You cannot take it. It's what I need. I need it. I need it." And Lee just goes, "Watch." And he, without hesitation, reaches in and holds her heart, and he holds his hand out to Cassidy. Cassidy does not think she can touch Lee Sterling's hand, but she puts it there anyway. She misses this man so much in real life, the touch of him, the smell of him, and surprisingly to her, even the intangible touch kind of grants her some kind of limited understanding of seeing it in the blood. And Lee says, "Draw a little and use your dagger." And Quan pulls roughly, and one of Marama's arms shoots out, presenting Cassidy with the forearm. And Cassidy looks at Marama, who can no longer speak but is just frothing at the mouth, angry, her eyes tearing, staring at Cassidy, staring daggers into her. Will Cassidy do this? Let's see. We are going to face danger with one last move, and this is going to be with resolve plus heart to do this to someone and see if this works. A 6 on the die for a 7 total versus a 4 and a 6 on the challenge dice for a strong hit on face danger. On a strong hit, mark progress. That brings us all the way to 10, so we are going to finish the scene cleansing Marama the Bloodsworn. It says here, when the scene challenge is filled, we're going to roll. As long as I don't get a 10, this will be a strong hit. Of course, I get a 10. On a weak hit, you succeed, but not without cost. You must pay the price and make this minor relative to the scope of the scene. Okay, I can't believe I just rolled a 10. And it's on Cinder. I think that regardless of how this plays out, Marama is not going to play nice on this ship right now. 34. Oh, this is perfect. Something of value is lost or destroyed. And it's Marama's blood magic. She falls to the ground. Quan is still hovering over her, ready to grab her and restrain her if need be, but the glow of Cassidy's dagger as she ever so gently just carved a line. I think it's a symbol too, maybe of something related to swearing an iron vow. She carves this, and the blood that comes out of Marama's arm is dark. It is almost purple or brown compared to the normal bright red of blood, but as Cassidy holds her dagger there, it almost kind of runs up the dagger, and that spectral extension of the blade goes into Marama's arm, and we see her eyes look up, and she opens her mouth, and when she falls to her knees, she looks up and she lunges for Cassidy. She is going to attack no matter what. Quan restrains her, and she attempts to use the blood magic, but nothing comes. And she tries again, and nothing comes. And then we just watch her collapse in weakness, and she is defeated, and she is so sad. But it's not just sadness, it is seething hatred that Cassidy would take this away from her. Cassidy looks at Lee and Quan and says, "Do you have this? We'll do the others after we deal with Raskhar." Quan just nods their head, and Lee just kind of frowns, makes a sad face looking at Marama, and he says, "I'll try my best, Cass. Good luck." And Cassidy runs back up on top of the deck to see what has happened since. Let's go ahead and roll. I think that we are still in a bad spot, and I'm going to roll for Asana and Damaris's progress. I think that we've clashed in this moment. As Cassidy, her head comes up above the deck and is attempting to get here, we are in a bad spot and fighting back. I think they've closed the distance. We are still rolling plus edge, but they are going to attempt to board because Raskhar wants this iron. Oh no, there it is. That is a 2, but it's against an 8 and a 9 on the challenge dice. I don't have the momentum to make that work. On a miss, your foe dominates this exchange. You stay in a bad spot and must pay the price. Here we go. 3. An individual or community you care about is exposed to danger. Who goes overboard? Okay, who goes overboard? Here goes. 1 through 3, it's Asana. 4 through 6, it's Damaris Yver. First mate Asana is thrown overboard when another of the cannonballs hits the decks, and she is blown aside, and the part of the deck, the railing where she would have hit when she slides across the deck, is missing, and she just goes overboard. Oh no. Okay, what is Cassidy's priority here? She needs to rescue Asana, but she also can't turn her back on Raskhar. Oh my goodness. We're going to do 3 things in rapid succession. Cassidy is going to call the deckhands to pull something so that we do a very fast, very dangerous maneuver with the ship. To broadside, she says, prepare for boarding, one last launch. All cannons prepare to fire. She is turning broadside to Raskhar, who is on course to ram, and she's just going to launch. We may get T-boned, which is not ship speak, but I don't know what that would be. And she's going to say, load the cannons, fire them as soon as we have the angle. I will be right back. She looks at Damaris and says, tie this rope around me. And she's diving over the edge. This is not even a combat move. I'm just going to face danger. Oh my goodness. I think this is edge. Edge feels fine for this, to swim swiftly to get Asana back. That is a 4 plus 2 against a 1 and an 8 on the challenge dice for a weak hit on face danger, which means that I would succeed but make a suffer move. I think that the suffer move is going to be, it's got to be health. So we are down to 3 health for Cassidy as she hauls back, and it takes longer than she would like to haul back Asana, but in the meantime, we are also going to clash in this combat. So let's see how that goes. We are in a bad spot. We've maneuvered foolishly. Actually, you know what? I think we're going to have to react under fire to reposition and see if this gives us a good shot. So let's do that with edge. Yep. Rolling a lot of plus edges. That is a 4 plus 2 against a 7 and a 9. On a miss, the situation worsens. You stay in a bad spot. Pay the price. Oh no. The deckhands see Cassidy jump overboard. They are not doing it fast enough. It is not going well. That is an 8. You create an opportunity for the enemy. Yeah, I think that this is going to be insane damage to our ship. But we get the one more shot off. We are still in a bad spot. Let's roll clash to see if we get some more damage. Here goes. Shooting plus edge for the last time before we get boarded. There we go. That is a 6 on the action die, plus 2 for an 8 against a 3 and a 7 on the challenge dice for a strong hit. On a strong hit on Clash, you mark progress twice, and now we are in control. They are about to ram and board us, but we get a ton of cannon fire off against Raskhar and just shred a bunch of their ship and the men that were about to board our ship. I don't think I've done a boarding phase, but you know what? This feels like a good one. We are going to move to boarding phase. Actually, and this is such a bad idea, but I'm just going to do it because technically the boarding phase has separate objectives. I'm going to roll my 2d10 against the 4 boxes of progress we've made on this extreme rank to sink the Raskhar. It's unlikely, and it was always going to be unlikely. It's a long shot, and I said we're going to have to rip this early. Let's see if, because now we're getting boarded. Our ship is going to be destroyed, and theirs hopefully will be too. Let's see. That is a 3 and a 6 on the challenge dice, which means I got a weak hit on taking decisive action. Which means that the Raskhar is going to sink. But it says here, on a weak hit, you achieve your objective not without cost. Roll on the table below. You got a 57, which says you face collateral damage. Something is lost, damaged, or broken. Now, it cannot be the ship itself. It cannot be the Revenant. Is it? Okay, we're going to have to come up with a little roll table here. What is valuable on this ship? Okay, I think I've come up with a good list here. 1 on a d6 is Asana. 2 is Damara Sever. 3 is Quan. And 4 through 6 are the Bloodsworn. Here goes. That is a 6. Maybe not Marama, because she's no longer a Bloodsworn, but we're going to lose the other 2, who, in the confusion, when the Revenant is rammed and a giant section of hull is exposed, I think enough damage happens, they grab some shards of wood, cut free from their restraints, and dive into the water. If they live, if they don't, who knows? But we no longer have them, and they have a lot on us. But the Raskhar is also going to sink. Presumably the Revenant is going to make it back to land if we can complete this combat, because our Sedicor said so, and plot armor. But we need to complete this. I'm going to set the rank of this combat much lower than extreme. I think this is only dangerous. Formidable seems good against Raskhar, but I think that enough chaos is happening right now that we might even have the numbers at the moment because of how much damage we've done to their ship. Let's go ahead, and we're going long this episode. This is going to be formidable. 1 box of progress per bit of success, so we are going to go ahead, and I think that we don't have to enter the fray again. No, we do, because they are boarding, so we're going to enter the fray again. This time we are doing it in the thick of it at close quarters plus iron. But that's huge! That is a 6 plus 1 against a 6 and a 7, so it is a weak hit, so we get to choose one, take plus 2 momentum, or be in control. We just got rammed. I don't think we are in control, but I think that we are more prepared than they expected. We have 7 momentum. Let's go ahead and clash at close quarters. This is where Cassidy personally is not good. Should we just battle? I don't want to just cut short the excellence that is defeating the Raskhar, this notorious marauder, but a boarding phase does feel like a battle. And I never really get to use that, so let's go ahead and just do that. When you fight a battle and it happens in a blur, envision your objective and roll. I don't think anybody on this ship harbors delusions of being an incredible combatant. The Revenant is made up of people who are here because of strange reasons, mystical reasons, not personal power or anything like that. We may have some big, strong members. It makes all the sense in the world, but it's not that we are out there raiding and pillaging and all this stuff. We are not that kind of crew. So I think that it makes sense Cassidy would say to them, in the event that we are ever boarded, we have a very specific set of plans to do as much as we can with the limitations that we as a crew have. She is a spy, she is smart, she is clever. This is what she's going to do. We are going to roll using, I'm going to say wits, because while Cassidy is using shadow, I think that the crew itself is using wits. So we're rolling plus 2 instead of plus 3. Here goes. 3 plus 2 for a 5 versus 2 2s on the challenge dice for a strong hit with a match. Cassidy's plan works. Maybe no one is more surprised than Cassidy, as Raskhar's terrifying crew of slaughterers, of just menaces, of terrifying men and women who make their lives killing on the high seas, stealing from folks throughout the Dominion, tracking down its enemies. They are feared. But Cassidy says, I know how to deal. with bullies. And she lures them in, and the crew plays it perfectly. You achieve your objective unconditionally, take +2 momentum back up to 9, heading back in to whatever comes next. And I think that this happens because snipers up top just keep shooting, right? We have people who they know the barrels that are marked for certain things, and all of a sudden we have just everywhere that Raskhar's men chase the terrible at combat looking, which is fair, crew members of the Revenant. They run into something and someone else is waiting there to just, it is almost a scene out of like Hook or some kind of like PG-13 teenagers defeating competent criminals kind of scene, but it actually works. Like, this is not a joke. The only one, there's maybe a few that don't fall for it or can power through it, one of them being Raskhar. And when all the dust settles and all of this craziness happens, Cassidy and the Raskhar are facing each other. I'm going to roll separately for them just because I think this is too momentous of a moment. And Cassidy does fight using trickery, so here goes. Plus shadow, +3. That is a 2 +3 for a 5 versus a 5 and an 8 on the challenge dice. It would be a miss. But I'm going to burn all of that momentum back down to 2, and we are going to turn this into a strong hit. I think Cassidy pulls her 2 daggers, her large dirks, and Raskhar moves forward. And I think that he pulls his pistol and goes to shoot it, but it's wet, and it misfires, and he throws it down to the ground, and he says, "I'm gonna prefer breaking your bones with my hands anyway." And all of those iron bond stones he has stolen from dozens, if not hundreds, of others jangle across his body, and Cassidy stands there with her daggers up, not backing down, and as he approaches, he pulls an enormous cutlass that can definitely overpower her daggers. And as he approaches and starts swinging, she's dodging its shadow, she's using manipulation and trickery, and she's waiting to just get him in just the right spot. And as soon as she does, he swings, and in a strange, to him, blunder on her part, but why would he assume that she's good at fighting? She gets both of her daggers up, and he hits them and disarms her. Both of them clang across the ground, and now she is defenseless against him, but he is standing in a spot, and then she looks up at him and smiles, and then drops to the ground as a harpoon gun swivels around, and sitting behind it is Asana, who she just rescued, and she says, "This is for my friends," and she shoots the harpoon straight through Raskhar. Okay, a lot of things have happened here. I think that there is very limited time where the crew of the Revenant are working to dislodge the Raskhar as it is stuck in a section of the hull. Surprisingly, the Revenant is still floating. They are working on repairs. There is a very limited amount of time where they can get into the Raskhar and grab as much as they can, but they don't get as much as they'd like. The Bloodsworn are gone, and the alarm is raised for that, except for Marama, who is still sobbing and just defeated down in the hold with Quan and Lee Sterling. And I think that the next thing we see is the Revenant. If a boat could limp, that is whatever this boat is doing as it sails, half broken, people looking at it probably wondering how on earth this got here, into the lower city of Crania, the caves, and it's unrecognizable as the Revenant. It is just battered and broken. Any immediately recognizable features that make up the Revenant have been broken or broken down to be used in repairs, and it is fitting that as this cursed domain is falling away from these myriads from the heart of the Dominion, the curse of the Bloodsworn is waning in power, or it is causing them to act differently. Things are erratic. The Revenant is not what it once was. We see Cassidy and the crew able to sail in without any suspicion, other than, how did this happen to you? But no one asks questions. When Cassidy holds up the bond stones that once belonged to Raskhar, and instead, a celebration will occur in Crania for the defeat of one of the most notorious marauders and pirates in these myriads. Now, this is going to bring a lot of attention to whatever's going on here, because technically he was working for the Carcordia Dominion, but the crew of the Revenant can party it up all they want. Asana, Demarcy Vare, Quan, Cassidy, and obviously Lee, who no one else can really see, do not have to be there. And they tell a very small skeleton crew to take the Revenant and hide it in a local nearby sea cave. Stories will get out, rumors will spread, and before long, no one will know what the truth was. But it will be undeniable that Raskhar has been defeated. And now we're in Crania. We're making our way to the heart of the Dominion. What a crazy session. That is where we're going to end this one. I hope that you enjoyed it. That was very fun to play out. 2 tense, stressful scenes at once. Surprisingly, we actually succeeded at both of them. I have no idea why my dice were being so generous today. But if you like what I'm doing, find me on the social medias. Say hi. Rene Plays Games, wherever you look. Rene. If you're this far, you know how to spell my name. Email me at reneplaysgamespod@gmail.com if you want to come on, talk about something on a perspective checks, pitch a game to play. I'm open to ideas. I have so many, so if there's people saying, this one's really good, and I'm like, oh, I've had it and haven't gotten it to the table, you might be what sways me. Anyway, please leave a rating and review on your podcatcher of choice. It goes a long way. If you like, I have a coffee page. No pressure. I'm very bad at updating it. Join the DMs After Dark Discord. We can chat a lot more, a lot less formally, casually. Just come hang. And until next time, shoot your shot. You never know what extreme challenges you're up for. And I believe in you. You can do it.